The night falls softly over Barcelona, and with it comes a transformation that turns the city into something more than stone and light. It becomes a living dream, a canvas painted with shadows and golden glimmers, where every corner whispers promises of discovery and every street hums with the pulse of life itself. This is the hour when Barcelona sheds its daylight skin and reveals its truest self, a creature of elegance, passion, and endless possibility. The air grows thick with anticipation, carrying the scent of jasmine and salt from the distant sea, mingling with the warmth of bodies moving through the darkness, drawn together by an invisible thread of curiosity and desire for connection. As you step into the flow of the evening, you become part of something ancient and eternal, a ritual that has played out on these streets for centuries. The Spanish soul awakens after sunset, and nowhere is this more evident than here, where the night is not an ending but a beginning. The pavement beneath your feet still holds the warmth of the day, and with each step you take, you sink deeper into the rhythm of this nocturnal world. Laughter cascades from open doorways, music bleeds from hidden courtyards, and the voices of 1,000 conversations create a symphony that needs no conductor, only willing participants. This is Barcelona at night, where magic is not a myth but a tangible presence you can almost touch. The women who walk these streets embody something beyond mere beauty. They carry themselves with a confidence that seems woven into the very fabric of their being. Their movements are unhurried yet purposeful, each step a small declaration of self-possession. They wear their elegance like a second skin, whether draped in simple black dresses that catch the light or flowing fabrics that dance with every gesture. Their laughter rings clear and genuine, echoing off ancient walls and modern facades alike. They walk alone. They walk in pairs. They walk in groups that move like schools of graceful fish through the sea of humanity. There is no pretense here, no artifice, only an authentic expression of feminine energy that feels both timeless and utterly contemporary. These women are the city's heartbeat, its living poetry, the embodiment of Spanish grace and vitality. The lighting transforms everything it touches, turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. Street lamps cast pools of amber warmth that invite you forward, drawing you from one circle of light to the next like a path of luminous stepping stones. Neon signs flicker and glow in shades of pink, blue, and electric green, their reflections shimmering on wet pavement after a brief evening rain. The interplay of shadow and illumination creates an ever-shifting landscape where nothing stays the same for long. Faces emerge from darkness, illuminated for a moment before disappearing back into the flow. Shop windows display their wares like small theaters, each one telling a story of taste, style, and the art of living well. The city becomes a gallery of light and form, and you are both observer and exhibit, seeing and being seen in equal measure. Sound wraps around you like a living thing, a multi-dimensional tapestry woven from 1,000 individual threads. The click of heels on pavement creates a percussion section that never stops, a constant reminder of movement and momentum. Distant music floats on the breeze, sometimes the passionate cry of flamenco guitar, sometimes the throb of electronic beats, sometimes the smooth jazz that spills from intimate bar doorways. Voices rise and fall in animated Spanish, the language itself a kind of music, with its rolling R's and explosive consonants. Motorcycles growl past, their engines a brief roar before fading into the general hum. Glass clinks, bottles pop, doors swing open and close with a rhythm of breathing. The city speaks in a language beyond words. And if you listen closely, you begin to understand what it is saying. The people here possess a warmth that defies the coolness of the evening air. Strangers make eye contact and smile, acknowledging the shared experience of being alive in this moment. In this place, groups gather at outdoor tables, their bodies leaning toward each other in the universal posture of intimacy and interest. There is touching here, hands on shoulders, kisses on cheeks, embraces that linger just a moment longer than necessary. Physical affection is not hidden or rationed, but given freely, a natural expression of human connection. This is the Mediterranean soul on full display, unafraid of closeness, unashamed of emotion. The Spanish understand something fundamental about existence, that life is meant to be felt, not merely observed, and that the body's wisdom is as important as the mind's knowledge. As you continue your walk, you notice the way people inhabit space differently here than in colder, more reserved places. There is no hurry, no anxious glancing at watches or phones, no sense that somewhere else might be better than here. The present moment is given its full due, honored and savored like good wine. Conversations unfold at their own pace, punctuated by long pauses and comfortable silences. Couples walk with arms entwined, moving as single units through the crowd. The elderly sit on benches watching the parade of youth, with knowing smiles, remembering their own nights of possibility. Children still run and play despite the late hour, their laughter a reminder that night need not mean darkness in the metaphorical sense. This is a culture that understands balanced work has its time, but so does pleasure, and neither should consume the other entirely. The architecture rises around you like the bones of a beautiful creature, each building a testament to history, ambition, and the human impulse to create beauty. Gothic spires pierce the night sky, their stone faces softened by shadows and strategic lighting that transforms them into something almost supernatural. Modernist curves flow like frozen waves, their organic forms a rebellion against the straight line and right angle. Narrow medieval streets give way to broad boulevards designed for promenading and being seen. Balconies overflow with plants and hanging laundry, signs of life continuing above the street-level activity. Every surface tells a story if you know how to read it, the worn steps of centuries of footsteps. The graffiti that is sometimes vandalism and sometimes art, the carefully preserved details that connect present to past. Barcelona is a city that wears its history proudly while simultaneously reaching toward the future. The women you pass seem to move through the night with an internal compass that never fails them. They know where they are going even when they are simply wandering, secure in their right to occupy space. To be looked at and to look back without apology. Their beauty is not uniform or commercialized, but wildly individual. Some with dark eyes that flash with intelligence and humor, others with softer gazes that invite longer observation. Some wear their hair long and loose, letting it cascade down their backs like silk waterfalls. Others have it pulled back severely, exposing the elegant lines of neck and jaw. Their style ranges from casual to carefully curated, but each outfit seems to fit perfectly with the personality wearing it. There is no sense of costume or performance, only authentic self-expression. They are comfortable in their skin, these Spanish women, and that comfort translates into a magnetism that draws the eye without demanding it. The smell of food drifts from restaurants and street vendors, adding another layer to the sensory feast. Garlic and olive oil form the base notes, while grilled seafood, cured ham, and freshly baked bread provide the melody. Coffee mingles with cigarette smoke in a combination that should be unpleasant but somehow works in this context. Sweet churros and melting chocolate create clouds of sugary temptation. Wine breathes from every other doorway, inviting you to pause and indulge. The Spanish approach to food is sensual and social, never rushed, always communal. Even a simple meal becomes an event worth lingering over. Another excuse to extend the evening and delay the inevitable return to solitary sleep. Nourishment here is understood as more than fuel. It is pleasure, connection, and tradition served on a plate. There is freedom in these streets that is palpable. Almost visible, people laugh loudly without self-consciousness, dance without music when the mood strikes, argue passionately about trivial matters because the act of engagement is more important than the content. Boundaries are softer here, both physical and emotional. What might be considered oversharing elsewhere is simply normal conversation. What might be seen as inappropriate touching is merely the standard greeting. The Spanish live closer to their emotions, letting them show on their faces and in their voices without the filter that more reserved cultures impose. This emotional honesty creates an atmosphere of authenticity that can be intoxicating for visitors accustomed to more guarded interactions. You feel permission here to be more fully yourself, to express rather than suppress, to live outwardly instead of inwardly. The night deepens but shows no sign of winding down. If anything, the energy increases as midnight approaches and passes. New waves of people emerge from apartment buildings, freshly showered and dressed for their own explorations. The bars and clubs are just beginning to fill properly, the early arrivers now joined by the fashionably late. Music grows louder, laughter more frequent, movements more languid and sensual. The temperature drops slightly, but bodies pressed together compensate, creating islands of warmth in the cooler air. Jackets come off, bare shoulders emerge, and skin glows in the artificial light. There is an abandon creeping into the atmosphere, a collective decision to let go of whatever burdens the day imposed, and surrender to the night's possibilities. The women dancing near open doorways move with a fluidity that suggests bodies unencumbered by tension or self-doubt. Hips sway with the music's pulse, arms rise and fall in graceful arcs, heads tilt back in moments of pure pleasure. Their dancing is not performance but personal expression, each woman moving according to her own internal rhythm even as she remains connected to the beat that everyone shares. There is sensuality here, but without vulgarity. A celebration of the body's capacity for beauty and pleasure that feels entirely natural. Men watch, certainly, but so do other women, and the watching is appreciative rather than predatory. Everyone understands the unspoken rules. Look, admire but respect the boundary between observation and intrusion. The night is long enough for everything to unfold as it should, in its own time. As you walk deeper into the night, patterns begin to emerge. You notice the way couples pause in shadowed alcoves for stolen kisses, their faces catching the light as they pull apart and smile at each other with shared secrets. You see groups of friends walking arm in arm, singing songs at full volume with more enthusiasm than skill. You pass older women in widow's black sitting on stoops, their watchful presence a reminder that community means knowing your neighbors and their business. You encounter street performers, a guitarist whose fingers fly across strings, a poet reciting verses in rapid-fire Spanish, a living statue who holds impossible poses until a coin in his cup earns a slight nod of acknowledgement. Each of these small vignettes adds to the larger picture, building a portrait of urban nightlife that is both specific to Barcelona and universal in its human elements. The energy of Spain pulses through every moment. Every interaction, every stone and streetlight. This is a nation that has always understood the importance of living fully, of squeezing every drop of juice from the fruit of existence before it rots. The Moorish influence lingers in the architecture and the love of intricate decoration. The Catholic heritage shows in the churches that still dominate skylines and the religious iconography that appears in unexpected places. The revolutionary spirit surfaces in the art and the political graffiti that decorates walls. The maritime tradition connects the city to distant shores and exotic influences. All of these historical threads weave together to create the unique fabric of contemporary Barcelona, a place that honors its past while firmly inhabiting its present. The city is confident in its identity, secure enough to welcome outsiders without losing itself in the process. The contrast between light and shadow plays out not just visually, but metaphorically throughout the night. There is the public Barcelona of broad streets and famous landmarks, and there is the private Barcelona of whispered conversations and hidden courtyards. There is the tourist Barcelona that exists on maps and in guidebooks. And there is the resident Barcelona that only reveals itself to those who know where to look. The women walking past embody both sides of this duality. They are approachable yet mysterious, visible yet ultimately unknowable in their totality. They offer glimpses of themselves generously but retain something essential that remains private, protected, sacred. This balance between revelation and concealment is part of what makes the night so compelling. The constant promise that one more turn might reveal something extraordinary. Music shifts and changes as you move through different districts, each area possessing its own sonic signature. Here the sound is traditional, guitars and hand claps accompanying passionate vocals. There it becomes electronic. Synthesizers and drum machines creating landscapes of pure emotion rendered in sound. Around the next corner, jazz predominates, saxophone and double bass engaged in musical conversation. Further on, rock guitars assault the ears with distorted power chords and pounding drums. The city contains multitudes, catering to every taste and preference without judgment or hierarchy. All music is valid here, all expression welcome, from the most refined classical to the rawest punk. This musical diversity mirrors the human diversity visible in the faces you pass. Every shade of skin, every type of beauty, every possible configuration of humanity finding space and acceptance in the night. If you feel the magic of this moment, if the beauty of Barcelona at night speaks to something in your soul, leave a like and let the algorithm know that this kind of content deserves to be shared. Tell me in the comments which city you dream of discovering at night. Which urban landscape calls to you when the sun sets and possibility awakens. Subscribe to experience other magical nights around the world, to walk digitally through places you may one day visit physically. These virtual journeys are invitations to expand your sense of what is possible, to understand that there are as many ways to live as there are cities to explore, each one offering its own lessons in beauty, connection, and the art of being human. The women's laughter continues to punctuate the night like wind chimes in a breeze. Each burst of joy a small rebellion against seriousness and sorrow. They travel in packs sometimes. These Spanish women, their collective energy amplified by proximity and shared intention. They link arms and take up the whole sidewalk, forcing others to navigate around them, and there is no apology in this appropriation of space. They own these streets as much as anyone, have walked them as girls and now return as women to claim what is theirs by right of birth and persistence. Their confidence is earned through a lifetime of navigating male attention with grace and firmness. of learning when to respond and when to ignore, of developing that sixth sense that all women must cultivate to survive in public space. But they have not let this necessary vigilance dim their light or diminish their joy. They are still here, still laughing, still beautiful, still free. The night air carries messages from the sea that lies just beyond sight, a reminder that Barcelona is a port city with one foot on land and one in the water. This maritime heritage infuses everything with a slight salty tang, a moisture that softens the edges of experience. Sailors and merchants, explorers and immigrants have passed through these streets for millennia, each group leaving its mark on the culture and genetic pool. The city has always been a crossroads, a meeting point of cultures and influences, and this cosmopolitan heritage is visible in the faces you see tonight. Not everyone here is ethnically Spanish, but everyone here is participating in Spanish nightlife, adopting its customs and rhythms, becoming temporarily or permanently part of something larger than themselves. The generosity of spirit that allows this integration is one of Spain's greatest gifts to the world. As the hours accumulate, you begin to understand that nightlife here is not about destination, but about the journey itself. The walking is the point, the seeing and being seen, the constant possibility of unexpected encounter. You might meet the love of your life turning the next corner, or have a conversation with a stranger that changes your perspective, or simply witness a moment of such perfect beauty that it sustains you through darker times ahead. The night is generous with its gifts if you remain open to receiving them. This requires a certain vulnerability, a willingness to abandon the protective armor we wear during daylight hours and admit to our longing for connection, meaning, and transcendence. The women walking these streets understand this implicitly. They have dressed and groomed themselves not just to attract, but to participate fully in the night's rituals, to offer their own beauty as a contribution to the collective experience. The storefronts you pass tell stories of commerce and desire, displaying shoes and clothes and jewelry that promise transformation, the possibility of becoming a more beautiful or interesting version of yourself through acquisition. Some people pause to window shop even at this late hour, drawn to the sparkle of things under glass, the suggestion that happiness might be purchasable. But most people keep moving, understanding that what they seek cannot be bought but must be experienced, felt, lived. The real treasures of the night are immaterial, the warmth of human contact, the beauty of a smile shared with a stranger, the music that makes your body want to move, the food and drink that please the senses, the conversation that engages the mind. These are the riches Barcelona offers to all who walk its streets with open hearts and curious eyes. There is romance in the air tonight, not the commercialized sentiment of greeting cards, but the genuine article. The possibility of connection, the spark of attraction, the delicious tension of uncertainty. Will they look at you? Will you find the courage to speak? Will something ignite that was not there a moment ago? The women you pass are so alive, so present that even a brief eye contact can feel charged with meaning. Their beauty is not diminished by accessibility. The fact that they walk the same streets as everyone else, that they are real people with jobs and families and ordinary concerns, only makes them more attractive. This is not the untouchable beauty of magazines and screens, but the beauty of actual human women in all their complexity and contradiction. They are neither angels nor temptresses, but simply themselves. And that is more than enough. The architecture continues to reveal new wonders as you walk. Facades that seem flat in daylight suddenly showing depth and detail in the interplay of light and shadow. Gargoyles leer from cornices, their grotesque faces somehow appropriate to the night's slightly surreal atmosphere. Balconies overflow with wrought iron and flowering plants, suggesting the private lives unfolding behind shuttered windows. Doorways hint at courtyards beyond, secret gardens where fountains whisper and tiles gleam in moonlight. Barcelona is a city of layers, each one worth exploring, and the night is the perfect time for such excavation. Things hidden in daylight's harsh glare become visible in darkness, and truths too painful for sunlight can be examined and accepted under the moon's more forgiving light. The crowd thins and thickens in waves. Tides of humanity flowing according to patterns both predictable and random. A bar empties out as last call approaches, and its patrons spill into the street, loud and unsteady but happy. A late movie lets out and couples emerge blinking into the artificial light, holding hands and discussing what they have just seen. Shift workers head home while night workers head out. The city's metabolism never completely sleeping. The women moving through these crowds are of all ages, young women just discovering their power, middle-aged women in full command of theirs, older women who have seen it all and yet still choose to participate in the night's theater. Each age has its own beauty, its own way of inhabiting space and interacting with the world. The culture here does not worship youth to the exclusion of all else, but recognizes that attractiveness and sexuality are not the sole property of the young. Music continues to float from every direction, creating an audio collage that should be chaotic but somehow coheres into something meaningful. The human brain is remarkably good at finding patterns in noise, extracting signal from chaos, and tonight your brain is working overtime to make sense of the sensory overload. But perhaps sense-making is not the point. Perhaps what is called for is simple acceptance, allowing the experience to wash over you without trying to capture or categorize or control it. The night has its own logic that does not translate well to daylight rationality. Dreams and reality blur here, and that blurring is not a failure but a feature. You walk through a waking dream, and the women you pass are both real and archetypal, individuals and representatives of eternal feminine energy that has moved through these streets for as long as streets have existed. The smell of the night changes as hours pass. The sweetness of earlier gives way to earthier scents as trash bins fill and cigarette butts accumulate. This is reality asserting itself against romance. A reminder that magic happens in the real world with all its attendant messiness. Barcelona does not pretend to be anything other than what it is. A working city that also happens to be beautiful. A place where people live actual lives, complete with boring details and mundane concerns. The fact that transcendence and grocery shopping can coexist in the same space, that women buying bread in the morning can transform into goddesses at night, is part of what makes urban life so endlessly fascinating. We contain multitudes, as the poet said, and cities are the stages on which these multiple selves get performed. Your legs begin to tire from all this walking, but you push on, not wanting the night to end. Sensing that something important might still be ahead, around the next corner perhaps, or the one after that. The city promises and sometimes delivers, but the delivery is never quite what you expected. You thought you wanted one thing and discovered you needed something else entirely. The women walking past in their elegant shoes and flowing dresses are not available for your consumption or fantasy. They are living their own lives, pursuing their own goals, existing entirely independent of your observation. And yet, paradoxically, your observation gives them a kind of immortality, fixes them in memory in a way they will never know. Years from now, you will remember a particular face, a certain way of walking, a laugh that rang out at just the right moment, and she will have no idea that she lives on in your memory, a small bright flame against the darkness of forgetting. The night begins its slow turn toward morning, though dawn is still hours away. You can feel it in the subtle shift of energy, the way even this tireless city must eventually acknowledge the physical limits of human endurance. The crowd thins further, leaving only the diehards and the lost, those for whom the night is profession or addiction or simply home. The women you see now are different from earlier, harder, maybe, or more vulnerable, operating at the edges of conventionality. But they too are beautiful in their way, survivors of the night and all its tests. They walk with the same confidence as their more respectable sisters, claiming the same right to public space, insisting on their humanity and dignity regardless of circumstance. Barcelona embraces them all, asks no questions about who deserves to walk its streets after dark. The night is democratic in its hospitality, welcoming everyone who comes seeking whatever it is they seek. The magic has not diminished despite the hour. If anything, it has concentrated, distilled down to its essence. Those still out now are the true believers, the ones for whom the night is not an interlude but the main event. They are not killing time before sleep but mining it for meaning, squeezing every last moment of possibility from the darkness before light returns to render everything ordinary again. You understand now why Barcelona is famous for its nightlife, why people come from around the world to walk these streets and soak in this atmosphere. It is not about clubs or bars specifically, though those certainly play their part. It is about a philosophy of living that insists life is to be experienced fully, that pleasure is not sinful but sacred, that the body's wisdom should be honored alongside the mind's knowledge. The women here embody this philosophy without speaking it, simply by being themselves so completely and unapologetically. As your walk continues, you realize you have been changed by this night, that something has shifted inside you that cannot shift back. You have seen beauty offered freely, confidence worn lightly, joy expressed openly. You have witnessed a different way of being human, one less anxious and more present than what you are used to. The Spanish gift, if it can be called that, is this insistence on the present moment as the only moment that matters. Not the past with its regrets and resentments, not the future with its fears and fantasies, but the precious now that contains everything worth having. The women walking these streets understand this in their bones, and watching them, you begin to understand it too. Life is happening right now, this very second, and the question is whether you are going to participate or merely observe. Barcelona at night is an invitation to participation, to stepping into the flow of life instead of standing on the bank watching it pass.